Hello, everyone. Welcome in. I know that this looks like a monkey is speaking to you, but I'm not doing this on video. So, in order for us to meet face to face, you're just going to have to schedule an office hour visit with me, which I'm available to do via Zoom, um, and reach out to me through email on Canvas, where we can do that. Anyways, welcome into class. I'm excited to teach this class. We have so many great movies to watch together. We're going to watch feature films, we're going to watch short films. I hope that many of them, if not most of them, and maybe for some of you, all of them, are movies that you have not seen before. One of the great values of higher education or just education in general is to expose you to new things, maybe to things outside of your comfort zone, things outside of your echo chamber and whatnot. So I hope that I can accomplish that with a pretty great selection, in my opinion, of films from all over the world, of both documentary, fiction, narrative, non-narrative, experimental, film, journal, all different kinds of styles. So yeah, we have an array of things to consume, to unpack, to learn from. I think it's going to be great. Our first film, this is a still shot from a movie called Baraka, and some of you might actually be familiar with this image because I've seen it used as GIFs and memes, and it's one of those iconic images that I feel like a lot of people might be familiar with but not know the original source, but you're now about to learn the original source. It's from the opening scene of a movie called Baraka from 1992, directed by Ron Fick, and that is going to be our first screening of the semester. So, like I said, we're going to watch a movie every week, and that is all going to coincide with the information that we are going to be learning, a discussion, a quiz, and other supplemental materials. So, Baraka is a great one to kick off, and we'll get into that in a minute. All right, moving on. Just like to start the class with this quote here from great filmmaker Spike Lee. He says, "Cinema is a reflection of its society. It's essential to appreciate and critique films because they are a record of our times, our struggles, and our hopes." I feel like this quote really encompasses this class because we're going to experience kind of a fusion of appreciation and critique. And it's been said before that we love stories because they help us make sense of life. Sometimes when you finish a really great movie, you just lean back and say, well, that's life, isn't it? Or that's how life goes, or something like that. Because they're a reflection of our lives, a record of our times, our struggles, our hopes. One of the things that we'll talk a lot about in this class, we'll examine really, is circumstances. So looking at film from a perspective of what was going on at the time this film was made, or when the story takes place, in regards to many things such as cultural, political, economic events, natural disasters, trends, technology, all those different factors that are kind of factors outside of the movie itself, which we'll get into a little bit more, and I hope that becomes a little bit more clear. So yeah, we're going to be taking a real deep dive into film in this class. All right, so there's my email. It's built into Canvas, so it shouldn't be too hard. Hopefully you're in the right class. This is Film 100, Intro to Film. Again, office hours are by appointment. Happy to meet with y'all at any point. I use he, him, his, they pronouns. Just something to kind of reflect on when you start these lectures. This is something I do with the in-person classes, and I feel like it's a good way to kind of prime the brain. So go ahead and ask yourself, what have you watched lately? What excites you about film? Maybe you can reflect on what are your favorite films, how are they different now than maybe in the past, and how they might change. And there's a lot of visual content out there in the world, and there's more and more every day. Um, so some examples would be TV, like shows, series, etc., movies, including short films, feature films, um, different channels like YouTube channels, vlogs, stuff that's on social media. There's also games and writing within video games, computer games, etc., which is now a larger industry than the film world. Games are kind of taking over, and also there's really becoming a blurred line between video games and films, especially as AR and VR technology is becoming more widespread. So film is a definitely an evolving form. Um, yeah, so some of us are kind of more TV people, more movie people, more social content people. Maybe we're a hybrid of two or three of them. I meet people of all different preferences. I definitely know people who are like, I don't really like movies. I kind of just watch series. I prefer kind of the long form style, or kind of little nuggets, 30-minute shows. I'm one of the people that's just really into feature films. I really love movies. I do watch some shows, but I don't watch nearly as many as most people I know. And I didn't really grow up in the YouTube generation, so I do, subscribe to some channels and watch some content on YouTube and other networks such as that. But it's not kind of the thing that I have on in the background, like a lot of people. Um, but we're going to be looking at all of these things in this class. We're looking at all forms of visual content. Maybe not all, but many. Okay, just a little bit of a agenda. We're not going to get into the Baraka content yet. This is more just kind of putting a foundation down for this class. So the objectives in this class are to see movies differently, to deepen one's pleasure of cinema, to expand and diversify one's appreciation of film. Those are kind of some of the objectives I wrote. And then CSM has their official SLOs, student learning outcomes, straight out of the catalog. And those are: identify the basic techniques of film form, analyze film form in a film segment, emphasizing aesthetics, narrative, and cultural values. Number 3, distinguish different styles and modes of filmmaking. So hopefully when you leave this class, you can feel like you have checked off all of these boxes. That is the objective here, and I feel strongly that we will, and even go further. Real quick, content advisory. I understand that everyone has their own preferences, their own boundaries and sensitivities. So I want to respect that. I've made a very strong effort to prioritize scripts and films, because we're going to be reading some scripts too, that in my opinion prioritize artistic merit and avoid gratuitous violence. There is definitely some material, however, in these films that I can see as being challenging to watch, being triggering potentially. And just, everyone is different, so I want to respect everyone's preferences. There's a couple things. First of all, is just want to say, feel free to email me, or definitely do, right? If there is something specific, and whatever it is, right? I know a lot of people who are just like, I don't do horror. Like, anything scary, I'm not going to watch it. And I'll be like, that's totally okay. You don't need to. We do have one horror movie in this class, maybe two, and then there's other things that might be sort of feel scary. I wouldn't say they're horror genre. So anyways, if you want to give me a heads up about that, or whatever it is, right? If you have a phobia about spiders or something, I'll be like, that's cool. Like, I'll let you know in advance if there's a movie with spiders in it. I don't think there are actually any spiders in any of these movies, but any kind of themes, scenes, whatever. Also, you can do your own work, and you have a list of all the movies we're going to watch. They are subject to change. They probably won't really change. It's more of just that we won't watch all of them, because I have more on the list than we have time for, but that's because I like to rotate, and I'm always adding new films to the curriculum. But anyways, you can look up the parental guide for all of the films on the syllabus on IMDb under the parental guide section, and it's in extreme detail of exactly everything that happens, all the way down to like somebody unsheaths a knife, right? Which could be categorized as violence, right? Or thematically violent. So really, it's like very, very detailed and very good. And you can hit Command F and search for words and of things you want to avoid. So just want to throw that out there now, so we can be prepared. One of the things that I'm requiring you to get for this class is a physical notebook or journal. Here is an image of one that you've probably seen before. These are great. You can buy them in packs at Target or Amazon or whatever. They're generally inexpensive. You can borrow one. You could make one. I don't know, but I hope it's not a financial burden on anyone. If it is, just email me. I'm requiring you to get a physical notebook. There is reasons why I want you to write old-fashioned. I know I personally do most things in life on a computer or on my phone, but there is a tremendous value to writing things by hand still. As long as we're human beings, that there will be a lot of value, and it's a good, if it's not your norm too, it's good practice for your brain. So that's something that you're going to need for this class. There is no textbook or anything else that you need to buy. All the films are available online for free with your CSM credentials. You're already paying for it with your tuition. So the notebook is the one thing though, okay? I will allow you to use, if you want to use a, what do you call it? Like a Kindle or like some sort of digital notepad with a stylus though. It has to be with a stylus, not like an iPad, for example. So then it's still handwritten, all right? So that's really important. Most people will just go for the old-fashioned notebook, and I do prefer that you get that. But if you already own a tablet with a stylus and you don't want to buy a notebook, that's okay. Okay, so the reason why you need this movie journal is because, this journal is because it's going to be your movie journal, all right? So the idea is that you will be taking notes for every film that we watch, whether it's a feature film or a short film. And I've used the word feature film a few times now, and just so you know, a feature film is a feature length, a feature presentation. So generally anything over 60 minutes long. So pretty much all movies you would see in a movie theater, unless maybe it's a film festival, are going to be feature films. Short films are films that are anywhere from, half a second or whatever. There are lots of 1-minute movies out there, great 1-minute movies, to, we'll say 59 minutes, right? There's no official place where you draw the line. It just ultimately depends on where the movies live in distribution. But generally speaking, the movies that we all know about, that are in the theaters, that are on the marquee, those are feature films. So we'll be watching features and shorts. So those are some new terms for you to use in your vocabulary. Okay, so you're going to be writing notes. There are more details about this in the syllabus with prompts and ideas, because some people might feel like, oh, I don't know what to write about. So I give you lots of ideas in there. They need to be handwritten. All right. They will be checked intermittently throughout the semester for grade. So they are graded. I'm going to check your journals. The way you turn them in is you just take a photo. And let's see, entries must be at least half a page. I feel like it's really hard to say anything in half a page. But, at least half a page. Include your thoughts, observation, critiques, and questions regarding the experience of watching the film. Right? And hopefully you will start incorporating some terminology that we're going to be learning in this class. And hopefully as you do your journal entries, you will witness that you're able to start reflecting on, analyzing, thinking, writing about film more specifically, more objectively as well. We'll get more into that later. Okay, some people might like to write in their journals while watching the movie. Some want to write, I don't know why I wrote before. You can't really write them before. So basically while or after. I'm going to have to edit that. I recommend mixing it up. A lot of like filmmakers and film nerds like myself will carry around little journals in their pockets because it's kind of distracting to be taking notes on an illuminated screen in a movie theater. And there's my phone going off. Because you never know when you might have an idea, right? This is something that a lot of artists do, whether you're a painter, you're a rapper, whatever it is, right? Is like you never know when inspiration might strike. So I want you to sort of develop the habit, at least for this course, of carrying around a journal and writing your thoughts in it. And you can write about other things aside from the movies, but make sure for all the movie entries, they're clearly labeled, because you are going to take photos of them and send them to me. And I need to know like what, your entries pertain to what. I'm not going to read them in detail, right? I'm going to just really kind of skim through them. I can tell generally pretty quickly how thoughtful they are. I can also just see if you did the bare minimum, which is write half a page, or if you went further. Students often will write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. pages, right? And we also all write at different sizes. But just look at it yourself and ask yourself, did I do the bare minimum? Which is a C, right? C means average. Did I do the bare minimum? Did I do average? Did I do below average, which would, be write less than half a page, I guess, write a few sentences. Did I go a little bit more? So I did good, right? B is good. Or did I get an A, right? Did I really put thought and effort into this? It's usually pretty obvious to me and to you if you did that, okay? So that's sort of how that works. And if you have any more questions about movie journals, obviously just email me. Required materials. There's no textbook. You need a laptop or a tablet because this is an online class, obviously. So you need some way to access all the material and listen to the lectures and watch the movies. The movies are, again, all available through CSM's subscription to Kanopy or Swank. All the movies are going to be on Kanopy. 1, maybe 2 are going to be on Swank. But either way, just get access to both. Do it now. Take advantage. They're free. Like, when you log into Kanopy or Swank, you're going to be like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, it's so well curated that like pretty much every film that you're going to see on Kanopy or Swank is going to be good. There's no like, it's not like Netflix and a lot of other streaming services where there's, you kind of got to rummage through a lot of garbage. Kanopy and Swank is like really well curated. There's like just everything on there, I think, is like, either culturally important or critically acclaimed, like lots of classics and, plenty of very contemporary films. as well. So I always tell my students, just cancel all your streaming services and just take advantage of the free ones you're getting through CSM. And when you go to the streaming website, CSM streaming website, you will see that you also have access to movies on demand and a couple other streaming services, all, quote unquote, for free with the tuition you're already paying. So anyways, you definitely need to get on that so then you can watch everything. And then you can also watch things like on high res, right? Because there's other places to watch stuff, but the sound and the resolution typically not going to be good. Some of these movies if you already have Prime or Max or whatever, many of them are going to also be available for free on there. So you can watch it on those ones if you want, of course. It doesn't matter to me. But they are all going to be on Canopy and Swank, which I already made requests to make sure they will be there. All right, lastly, you need a notebook. Already we talked about that. There's a final project for this class. It's going to be due on the last day of class, so that's the class before finals week. Class, I know there's not really like a class in this official day, but Monday is kind of like our class day, we'll say. All of the material for this class will be released at noon on Mondays. Okay, so for some of you, you might want to just designate that, if you don't have conflicts, as your class day. You have 7 days, exactly, to turn in assignments, for most assignments at least, for discussions and whatnot. So you could make Wednesdays or Thursdays your official day. It's, totally up to you. But just so you know, Mondays at noon, that's when everything will be released, all right? That's also when many things will be due. Okay, so the final project, more details on that in the syllabus. It needs to be directly related to one or more of the films we watch in class. All right, so maybe you want to make a YouTube video essay on art horror films, and you're going to reference, I don't know, The Babadook, The Lighthouse, and I Saw the TV Glow. I don't know. So don't turn in a presentation on Spider-Man, right? We're not watching that movie. Even though, yes, of course, we could draw film noir connections from Spider-Man to Sunset Boulevard, for example. It's not directly related, all right? So that's the key word, directly related. If you have any questions, will, of course, email me, but there will be a project proposal, so I will sign off your project proposal beforehand, so there shouldn't be any issues with you turning in something that does not qualify. All right, so just keep that in mind, keep that on the back burner for now. It's not due for a while. We got like 15 or 16 weeks, I think. But something to kind of, start maybe hacking away at so you don't do it last minute. Moving on. Final project options. A video essay, you can make a short film. I don't do this unless you've made a movie before, all right? It's a huge project. I almost don't even want to allow people to do this, but I know some people out there are like really enthusiastic about being filmmakers, and in that case, I'd love for you to take advantage of this class to do that. But if you've never done it before, I really don't recommend you do it, because making a film is way more work than you think. Almost everyone's first film, they either don't finish it or they realize they've bit off way more they can chew, and they're deeply unsatisfied with the work. So this is not a film production class. So that's also why I'm not really going to prepare you to make a short film. So I just want to mention that. Same sort of notes go for a short screenplay, maybe a little bit less dramatic, but if you've never written a screenplay before, I don't recommend this option. I'm not going to teach you how to write a screenplay. We will look at them. We will read them. I'm not going to teach you how to do it, though. If you do this option, it needs to be formatted correctly. It needs to be written using screenwriting software, which I'm not providing in this class, but I know some of you have it. So yeah, I will be very strict on formatting if you do a screenplay. So I wouldn't make it your first screenplay. I advise against it. What a lot of people are going to do is a lecture, a lesson, a presentation, or some kind of exercise. So this is going to be in the form of like slides. You can use Canva or whatever. It's not going to be much different than what I'm doing right now. So something like that. So you're going to be sort of a teacher essentially. So you can go further into like French New Wave, which is something we'll be learning about. You can go further into sound design, whatever, right? And then also video essay, which are great for people who want to do that. Something you can put on like YouTube, something you could add to your channel. It's just great practice. So those are your options. Essays, kind of things that are more written focused, are not options, as you can see. So I want you to do something a bit more hands-on, a bit more interactive. You have a final exam, don't stress it. It's 100 multiple choice questions about everything in class, really. So lectures, screenplays, screenings, assignments. Late work policy, it doesn't matter if excused or not excused. Canvas will automatically deduct 10% from the grade per day with a maximum of a 50% deduction. So if you get 100% on a paper, you turned it in late, it will be 90%. A day late, it will be 90%. If you turn it in 2 months late, it will be 50%. So after 50%, it doesn't keep going down to zero. It's a maximum score you can get is 50%, which I think is pretty generous. So just try not to be late, stay on top of it. Everything is in the modules. It should be super clear. If it's not, just email me. Again, everything's released Mondays at noon. Most things are due Mondays at noon. All right, so here are the movies we're gonna watch. We're not gonna watch all of these, but we will watch almost all of these. So we have a movie a week. These are all in the syllabus. Maybe you recognize some of these. Maybe you've seen some of these. If you've seen them, it's awesome to watch them again. As you can see, we go way back. We're actually covering almost exactly 100 years, which I think is pretty cool. So maybe you've never seen a silent film before. That will be our second movie, Nanook of the North. It is considered the first feature documentary film, so very historical movie. And I think it's great not just for the history, also just for the content and kind of a lot of the conversation surrounding the movie. With our most recent example, going all the way, potentially, I'm not sure if we're going to end on the Babadook yet, or we're all going to the World's Fair, which are both horror movies. Art house horror movies is sort of how they're being categorized. We're all going to the World's Fair is an incredibly contemporary, postmodern, cutting edge movie. Really, really, really interesting movie. And also the Babadook, considered by many critics as one of the all-time best horror movies, and I would say of the more recent films, one of the best. So these are all very famous movies. All these movies I've chosen, I would say most of them are kind of considered classics, but there's also some classics on there, like Godfather Part 2, for example, that aren't on here, and these are movies that are great, but I feel like you're going to encounter them on your own, just inevitably. Through life, you might already know them. There's so much material on YouTube about a lot of those movies. So trying to look a little bit further, also looking a little bit more internationally, with very critically acclaimed movies, but also maybe stuff that's not typically, or I don't know if that's the right word, but looked at in film studies classes. All right. So anyways, I think it's a great selection. It's got everything on here. You may not love all of them. I personally love all of them, but I think you're gonna find at least one in there that that you may not ever forget. Okay. We got a bunch of shorts as well, subject to change, starting with an experimental film, Dots by Norm Maclaren, Meshes of the Afternoon, like one of the oldest, if not the oldest, feminist films, with especially of the time, of female directors, which not many movies were being made by women at this time, unfortunately. So this is a real classic, Meshes of the Afternoon. And yeah, all the way up to Hags by Sean Wang, who you might know because he is now pretty well known for having written and directed Dee Dee, which came out, was it a year ago or 2 years ago? No. Anyways, very recently. Great movie if you haven't already seen it, and takes place in the Bay Area, which is pretty cool. Yeah, many others. Great movies. Andrea Arnold, incredible director, who's made pretty much every feature film she's made is absolutely incredible, and she's made some short films as well. Milk being one of many that are great. So, anyways, yeah, just awesome selection here. Moving on. Okay, so in this class, one of the best ways to learn about film is by reading a screenplay. All right, like full stop. Just read a screenplay. Like it's really gonna show you how movies are made in many ways, like how they translate. You'll see the value of a screenplay. Because screenplay, it's really in most cases gonna make or break a movie, right? It all kind of starts there. A lot of things can go wrong along the way, but if the screenplay is not working, movie rarely can be saved through acting, direction, editing, etc. Of course, there are many examples and exceptions out there. But the screenplay is arguably the most important document in regards to film and the success of a film. So I want you to read 2 screenplays. One of them needs to be a feature film, and again, a feature film is a feature length. A 60-minute plus, so usually hour and a half. If you want to choose a 3-hour long movie, maybe, but you're going to read a feature-length script. And then for your second film, it can be another feature-length script or it can be a show. So just so you know, 1 page is 1 minute. So in general, a 90-minute long movie is 90 pages. A 30-minute television show is 30 pages, right? Plus or minus 5-10, depending on the speed of the dialogue and the pacing of the action and things like that. But in general, that's how it works. 1 minute is 1 page. What was I gonna say? Reading a screenplay takes generally the amount of time it takes to read a screenplay is equal to the length of the film. So a 30-minute film will have a 30-minute script and take 30 minutes to read. And that's all very much on purpose because the screenplay spacing and page turn dictates the pacing of the script. For your first script, if you've never read a script before, it will probably take you longer. It will probably take you like maybe 50%, 25% longer than the actual movie. But eventually, as you get more comfortable reading screenplays, you will see that you can kind of just flow right through them. They should be very easy. A good screenplay in general should be very easy to read, right? It's a blueprint. It's not meant to be cryptic. It's not meant to be clunky, right? That's maybe some novels and some other things. A screenplay should be very smooth and should read like in flow at the same speed, so you can almost watch the movie in your head as you're reading the screenplay, which is a pretty cool experience, which you can write about in your experience report. So with all of your journal entries, there are going to be 2 more entries in the same, and also in your movie journal, which are going to be entries about your screenplay. Entries about the screenplays that you have selected. Okay, so the number of entries in your movie journal is equivalent to all of the films we watch plus 2, which are your 2 screenplays for the screenplay assignments. On Canvas, there are loads of screenplays already there for you. Let me, where am I? Here we go, Film 100. Let me just show you really fast. Go into modules, scroll down, screenplays, boom. Features, 8th grade, Wall-E, Fargo, The Apartment, The Florida Project, etc. All official, these are all official screenplays. All right, read these ones. Don't read other things you find online. A lot of them are going to be, first of all, a lot of them are going to be transcripts. Absolutely do not read a transcript. It's painful to read. Reads very different than a screenplay. It has a function for sure, but it's not something that's used to make a movie. Here's the TV ones. Here, bunch of options. For your feature films, you need to pick mine. Okay, if you choose a TV one, you can pick your own. All right, but make sure. First of all, I recommend the ones I've picked, but if you want to go ahead and pick your own, they are not that hard to find out in the world. But make sure you don't read a transcript. The other thing too, which I forgot to say, was that a lot of the stuff floating around, most of them are going to be shooting scripts, and that's fine. A lot of these are also shooting scripts, but it's more interesting to not read a shooting script, because the shooting script will usually be almost identical to the movie, whereas the final draft before the shooting script, before the producers and the directors have touched it and edited things and whatnot, will often be really different. And then that way you can really see how a script gets translated into a film. So that's why I encourage you to not read shooting scripts, and definitely do not read a transcript. Okay. Screenplay options, they're all on Canvas. So anyways, I just put them here again. There's many in here, many great selections. A number of them, well, not a number, unfortunately. Some of them I have in other languages. Past Lives is written in Korean and English, which is cool. So you can read it on either one. As in it's written together in both languages, like side by side, essentially. Roma I have in English and in Spanish. So if you want to read something in, a different language, that's very fine with me and very much encouraged. Okay. Philosophically, this is something that really resonates with me. With great power must also come great responsibility. And I think about this a lot as being a storyteller, being a teacher, being a filmmaker. So I'm not going to read this whole manifesto to you. You can read it here, or you can read it on the syllabus. But I'll summarize it for you. Basically, what I'm saying is that our society is completely obsessed with film, right? And that hasn't always been that way. It hasn't been around for forever. Sometimes it's been theater, it's been gladiators, it's been other things, right? But right now we're very obsessed with film, and it's everywhere, right? Video content is everywhere. It's on our phones, TVs, tablets. Obviously, it's in theaters. It's on screens in airports. It's on screens in sports arenas. It's in elevators. It's in taxis. It's at bus stops. It's in subways. It's even on gas pumps, right? So we're like completely inundated with film. And to think that that's not affecting you psychologically is absolute nonsense. It's absolutely affecting you psychologically, right? So these stories, they're shaping these stories, these messages, whatever, right? I mean, this is how advertising works, right? It's shaping you whether you like it or not, right? Visual media shapes your attitudes, and your attitudes shape your behavior, determine your behavior, I guess might be a better way to put it. Right? Visual media shapes our attitudes, and our attitudes shape our behavior. So if we choose to be filmmakers, to be storytellers, anything in film, right? Because this is the thing that we love. We spend so much of our time consuming, right? Some of us, we go home, we watch something, right? In thousands of years, when they look back, it will be so clear, like how obsessed this generation in the past and the next few are with film. So if you're going to be on the side of, a consumer also, but also in the storyteller, just like the quote says, you have great power. So that comes with great responsibility, and thinking about the messages and whatnot that you're going to be transmitting to the world, because that will therefore be affecting people's world views, values, politics, etc., and shape their behavior. All right, so that's something to just really think a lot about. And not just in the stories you tell, right? And not just if you're in film, right? If you're a boss, if you're a casting director, whatever it is, right? It's important to make mindful and informed decisions regarding hiring, casting, storytelling, as I already said, and depiction too, right? And I think a lot of this just starts with education. Otherwise, we're kind of just like on cruise control about this, right? So it's nice to pause and think about like the impact that we are making on society. So just in conclusion, it's important to recognize the power and responsibility in today's film-obsessed society. We must remain committed to ensuring that film delights, inspires, empowers, and employs everyone. Okay, so that's that. Breath from that before I sort of start to wrap this up. I'll just tell you about me real quick. So I'm a film crazy person. Worked in film pretty much my entire adult life. I started really young. I started making movies in high school, but I started working in film really young. I was only 19 when I got my first job at a development studio, a music video studio, and I was an office intern. So got to work on set a little bit, but it was mainly like filing papers, answering phone calls, a lot of like secretarial sort of work. But it was my first experience working in Hollywood, and very eye-opening for me as being a teenager. And I pretty much haven't stopped since then. Now it's like 24 years later, 25. I don't know, how old am I? I forgot. So just kind of forever lose track. And like my second job was a really interesting one. I was working for the actor Ryan Reynolds, you probably know now at this point, who plays Deadpool. And I was a coverage writer for him. Coverage writer is a very introductory job for somebody kind of getting involved in development and screenwriting and filmmaking in general. It's an introductory job, but it's also a really important job because you're actually one of the gatekeepers of what movies potentially get made. So when scripts are submitted to studios, the coverage writers, who are often interns, which I was, they're the first people to receive the scripts, and then they read them, and then they decide if they should be moved on, if the producer or whoever's next in line should read it. And naturally 99% of them don't move on, but on occasion you might find one and be like, hey, this one's really good, and then pass it on to the producer. And then in my case, the producer would be like, hey, yeah, that one's really good. Let's pass this on to the talent, who in this case was Ryan Reynolds. And then they would decide from there if like they want to pursue it, or if they want to try and pitch it, if they want to develop it, or whatever. So that's where I really got into development and my love of screenwriting. I also teach screenwriting. I have an MFA in screenwriting now. But however, in my professional career, I've actually mainly worked in production. I have done audio for lots of branded content, 15 years now. Pretty much retired from it. I'm just focusing on independent projects now and teaching. But I worked in, commercial work for a very long time. Did a lot of music videos and biopic docs, and I worked for MTV, Red Bull, Adidas, The Voice, some reality TV stuff, Pitchfork, Ray-Ban, a lot of like lifestyle kind of brand stuff. I really had like the time of my life actually doing a lot of this kind of stuff, but eventually it became a bit unfulfilling for me, and I just wanted to focus on my own projects and not really be a crew member anymore. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. I've been a substitute teacher like off and on pretty much my whole life. I taught second grade in Mexico full time, straight out of college. I taught during my graduate program at UCR, I taught for 2 years as an assistant. I also teach at Santa Rosa Junior College. I teach film production and audio for film over there, if anyone is interested in, taking those classes, commuting like me. At CSM, I teach screenwriting, also Film 153. Some of you might also be in that class. I went to DeAngelo College for I think 3 years, just taking night classes. I really loved it. So I was kind of in your shoes at one point. After working in the industry for I think about 10 years at the time, I wanted to gain some knowledge from a more theoretical and academic perspective. So I enrolled in classes, sort of thinking I wasn't going to learn anything, because I was like, I already learned so much, working in studios and whatever. But I was very wrong. I learned so much. I became a way, way, way better writer because I knew nothing about craft. I knew nothing about craft of story. So I became a better filmmaker. I didn't have really refined technical skills in audio. It just kind of was everything self-taught. So that's, through taking classes, I think is where I was really able to hone my craft. And then further, after doing another decade gap of deciding to get an MFA. So I found incredible value in the school system, and then also in the, in the real world, quote unquote. Went to Chico State. I have a BA in Spanish. I studied Hispanic literature. I've been fortunate to work under a couple really great filmmakers out there. Dean Cundy, who is a director of photography. He did Jurassic Park, Halloween, The Mandalorian, you name it. All of these big Back to the Future, all of these movies. So got to be a mentor of him in grad school, learned a ton about production and directing, things like that. And then my advisor is Stu Krieger, who had a 40-year career. He's now retired at Disney, and wrote The Land Before Time, which was a big movie for me as a little kid. And then a lot of movies some of you might have heard of, like Xenon and Smart House and Cowbells and all these Disney movies. So so those have been kind of my mentors, along with many other people, of course, but they've shaped a lot of who I've become, I think. Aside from that, I like to do other things aside from making film. I also DJ, and I produce music. I teach DJing and music production classes at Berkeley Adult School at night on Wednesdays. And I'm really into rock climbing and skiing and snowboard. I like to do a lot of outdoor kind of stuff. I'm a real coffee nerd. horror and documentary are really the genres that I kind of obsess over. I love them all, but those are the ones I really like. Would love to teach a horror and not combine, which would be cool actually, but two separate classes, a horror class and a documentary class at some point. So maybe see you there. Um, and also, I'm a scholar in Asian American cinema. I teach and I study gender and race representation in film, and in particular, Asian American representation in film, which is something that I continue to pursue and actually really hope to teach a class on Asian American cinema. We'll see if that happens. Maybe next semester. I'm kind of putting it together. So yeah, those are my interests. Just want to tell you a little bit about me. I'm looking forward to learning a little bit about you, with your experience to film or no experience. Also, totally fine. Just whatever, your hobbies or interests. The whole point of me being a teacher, one of the many points of me being a teacher is to like pass on knowledge and experience that I've had. So if any of you have questions about any of the things that I kind of talked about that I've done, like how do I, get an internship? Like how do I get into branded content, right? Which is a great way to be employed, is working in like commercial work. Things like that. Yeah. So, any way I can help with some of my experience, please let me know. All right. If you want to check out some of my work, this is a music boutique that I run to this day. I got a lot of like my portfolio here, clarkbarkley.com. Here's a bunch of videos that I've worked on with the company I've worked with for pretty much my whole life. I'd be surprised if there's not a musician on there you haven't heard of, because we've filmed so many musicians. I understand there are also generational things, but everyone from, I don't know, Mac DeMarco to J. Cole, to Angel Olsen. I don't know, a lot of artists, which has been, really, really cool experience in my life of being able to meet and make music videos with so many artists. So yeah, if you're interested in checking out some of our kind of stripped down renegade style music videos, you can check them out there. And then also, I mentioned I write music and I teach music as well. So there's a link if you're curious. Okay, that's the end of that. That was like 52 minutes. Wow. I hope that this was valuable to you all. If you have any questions, again, I'm just trying to like lay everything out right now. So the way the course gets run is the way the course runs is clear. This video will be followed with the lecture on Baraka, which I'm going to keep short and sweet, hopefully. All right, but then after this, there's only one video lecture per week. All right, so this first one is just a little bit different. All right, have a great one, and I will be looking forward to seeing your discussions, actually, which will be coming up soon, and learning a little bit about you all. Okay, follow the modules, and I will chat with you soon. Bye.